Well, President Donald Trump is scheduled to be arraigned on criminal charges in New York tomorrow.
Trial attorney Kelly Hyman still with us. All right, Kelly, give us your initial thoughts on the fact that he's going tomorrow for arraignment. He is expected to appear in person at that arraignment and these charges. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, my initial thoughts would be interesting to think of the fact that whether they let the media in or the press in to actually see what happens or transpires during this in fact, and also whether he's going to have a mugshot or take a photo as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, if we're going to see what happens in real time. Now, Trump has stated that he's going to say that he is not guilty, but we've heard allegations that there's potentially 30 charges, but we're going to have to wait and see exactly what is in the indictment. Now, we also just have to remember he's been indicted, but he has not been convicted. So we're going to see how this plays out in the court of law.
Yeah, speaking of being indicted and not convicted, Kelly, one of the difficult parts about this case is going to be showing knowledge. I mean, the stories that are out there is that, yeah, there may have been payments made, but he knew nothing about the payments. There may have been some records falsified, but he knew nothing about these records being falsified. These are things that he has people to do, and they were acting on their own.
Right, we're going to have to see how that plays out. And as you know, the prosecution has the burden, the one that brings the case, to prove all elements of the crime. And so we're going to actually have to see. I look forward to hearing what exactly the charges are against him and the different alleged crimes that he's been charged of. Allegedly, there's been 30.
And that's what everybody's waiting for, really, is to see what those charges are. But Michael and I were talking, Kelly, about the fact that, honestly, I think that Trump could use this to his advantage, in spite of the fact he's facing criminal charges and the publicity and some of the pictures you mentioned. Do you think that this is something he truly intends to use to assist him moving forward with an election?
I think it's a double-edged sword. So I absolutely think that definitely it brings him on the front pages of the newspapers, and people are talking, and that people will rally against him. However, there has been people in his own party that has come out, someone running to be president, who says that he should step aside, or that this is becoming too much of a sideshow. So ultimately, we're going to see how that plays out. But absolutely, it's definitely helped him, but it's also potentially hurt him. And if he is convicted, then that's going to add more ramifications to it as well.
Yeah, now the conviction would be the problem. I think all of this sideshow, I think, is helping him. We've already heard that in the day that he was indicted, he already raised millions of dollars behind that indictment, right? So he's playing the martyr. And the fact that, and Kelly, speak to this, because he doesn't have to be there, right? He's a public figure. He's a famous person. He doesn't need to be there. He could have negotiated a deal, or his attorney could have negotiated a deal where they do with all this without him having to be there. I think he wants to be there because that appearance adds to his martyrdom.
I think that's a really interesting point. So then if that's the case, then why not let the media in, or let them have access to it as well, and potentially do a photo? But absolutely, it does create buzz. It does create people talking about him. And so it's, as P.T. Barnum would say, you know, that people are talking about you no matter what they say. It's a good thing. So absolutely, Michael, you bring up a really interesting point.
And there's a live picture of Trump Tower that we're looking at right now. Of course, everyone's going to be waiting for tomorrow, as we know that arraignment's going to happen. But the last thought I have, just in the last 10 seconds, is whether or not, Kelly, you think a conviction will stop Trump from moving forward with election.
I don't think so. I think that the potentially only way would be the fact that his party decides for him not to be the nominee, but we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. All right, Kelly Hyman, thank you so much for joining us today as our guest legal analyst.